Hi everyone and welcome to the second basics video. Today we are going to be talking about heels. Of course I like pleasers. So for pole dancing we're going to talk specifically about the platform heel, as you can see here. This is an 8-inch heel. You're most likely going to have maybe a 7-inch or a 6-inch, sometimes even a 5-inch. Or a 4. I've seen a 4. They look kind of odd though. Now the important thing about heels for pole dancing is that you deal with a bit of a platform. So the actual angle of your foot is at about 3.5 inches as opposed to the full 8. So for this video, I'm going to go over a lot of the do's and don'ts of heels. Then after that, I'm going to show you some tricks that look really good in heels, and I'm going to tell you a bunch of things to keep in mind as you're starting to move more with heels. I'm going to start by talking about a bit of the don'ts, because when it comes to heels, they can be fairly dangerous. In fact, if you get a pair of 9-inch heels, they come with a warning saying, don't move in these. They are for photos only. But of course, we're not going to listen to that. So for the first don't, be mindful of the angle. So if you're working with platforms, I mentioned they come at about 3.5 inches for the angle of your foot. And if you're working with what you have and you don't have any platforms right now, you want to try and keep that in mind instead of going for the highest heel possible, because you see girls who have 6, 7, 8-inch heels. You want to avoid that because it will hurt your feet. Next thing you don't want to do is work on shaky ankles. That also means you don't want to step on squishy mats. You don't want to go to a higher heel than you are able to handle. This may take some trial and error, but you will come to learn which height is best for you. You definitely don't want to push yourself if you roll over onto your ankle or fall. Be very mindful of your ankle. You need them to do a lot of things. So you don't want to make them angry. Or at least more angry than you already have by walking around on 8-inch heels. You also don't want to let the aesthetic value of heels overtake your form. It's easy to want to push your butt out, but you want to make sure that your core remains stable. And for the final don't, you do not want to do any move that requires foot grip. It sounds intuitive, but if you are freestyling and you try, you may fall. Let's move on to the do's. Do use baby steps, literally. If you're feeling uncomfortable or unstable, look to the pole or the floor for some stability. If you're up in an aerial move, you want to be sure your foot is not sickled. Heels are heavy, so they can push your foot in an awkward angle if you're not careful. Remember to take care of your legs and feet after using heels and try not to wear them too much. Do remember to keep your core pulled in. Keeping your core pulled in will help maintain stability through the rest of your body. Things to keep in mind with pleasers specifically, if they're starting to hurt your feet, they have this squishy pad, so they are designed to be comfortable for you. If they do not fit your exact feet, it is easy enough to go into this plastic part with a hairdryer or something else that exudes heat. Stick your foot in and it'll start molding to your foot a bit better, so it's less likely to cause you any pain. Now we're going to take a look at some of those moves, and I'm going to tell you some tips and tricks to keep in mind as you do them.
Starting with walks, you want to simply drag that heel along the floor like so, hand up on the pole. Dragging is really fun. Now, another fun shape you can do is just bringing your feet out to second position. You can roll down like that. Something you want to keep in mind is the angle of your ankles. If you're flat-footed, it cuts off your line, so you really want to make sure you're pushing through those ankles. As well, you want to keep that angle in mind. When your feet are closer into the pole, you kind of look like a frog, so you want to make sure that you're nice and wide. Speaking of angles, we're going to talk about knees. Especially when you're wearing heels, you want to keep in mind to either be straight-legged or bent, because when it's just a little bit bent, things can look awkward. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an example. So here's just like a little hip circle with straight legs, and then once the legs bend a little bit, it looks a lot sloppier. So if you're going to bend, really bend. And even then, you want to make sure that your ankles are involved in that. Look at how much better that looks. Sticking with this angle theme, here we're going to do some body rolls to the ground, feet away from the pole, really pushing through those toes to keep the angle of our ankle looking good. Another cool thing you can do in heels is any weird swishy leg move that you want can look sexy if you have the right attitude. Other cool things you can do include whacking your heels on the ground or together, and any straddle move that you want as well looks pretty good. The next thing I'm going to talk about is heel clacks. This can be done a variety of ways. It's when you clang your heels together or against the floor, and we're going to take a look or a listen at what these can sound like. You can also make heels look good by grabbing onto them, either on the ground or up in an aerial move. One way to force yourself into the correct angle is to remember to always stay on your toes. It might feel a little uncomfortable at first, but you will get used to it. So even in a simple spin, you want to make sure that you are focused on the toes. When you are going down or up the pole, you want to make sure that you push through. Another thing to keep in mind with heels is when you're on the pole. So when you are climbing or spinning, you want to make sure that you are tucked in just above that ankle, and you're going to feel it on the outside of your leg. Heels can make basic spins rather pretty. Tuck that ankle in, nice simple spin that looks really effective. And then easy enough, push through that ankle to come up. Heels can also elongate your splits and look pretty good too. When coming up the pole, you really want to make sure those angles are good. It can be kind of hard to get the hang of, but making sure that your angle is rounded as opposed to cut off at the ankle is very important. Looking at the difference between flat-footed and pushing through, you can see how rounded your line is as opposed to getting cut off, and in performances, it can really make a difference in terms of aesthetics. You want to keep that in mind going down and coming up. In a body wave, it's the same thing. So when you roll down, when it's cut, it looks like you're sitting awkwardly. So you want to make sure that you really push through onto those toes and down. I'm emphasizing this a lot because I want to make sure that you know that when you have such a pretty thing on your feet, it's incredibly important to make sure that your bottom half looks good. More cool things that heels add to are any type of leg wave used sparingly, as well as this cool thing that I like because the heel really adds so you can wing out on your way up and bend down and it looks really dramatic. Not sure if this one has a name. I call it the little clock movement because you can move your leg bent at the knee in any direction. You can shake your butt, heel clack, straddle, they all look great. Leg walks are probably one of the prettiest things you can do in heels. It's nice up the pole if you can do that, and also on the ground when you move your hips to the side. Also, just slutty poses look great in heels. Some more slutty things is one knee bent, one knee out, and then you can move your butt, you can switch, smacking that butt down each time to create a little wave. It looks great. You can come up to a down dog and into a split if you have the space. Another thing to keep in mind when you go up the pole, heels can extend your line and make you look really pretty when you're up there. But that also comes with a double-edged sword because with the added weight, it can turn your foot into odd angles, so you really want to watch out for that. I also quickly want to talk about hand placement during your basic spin. So you're going to take your outside hand, turn it down, and slide it all the way around the pole. Then palm, back of the hand, and then palm again in twisted. With your other hand, and then boom, you're around.
So that's all I had planned for the heels basics. If I forgot anything, as usual, please leave a comment or send me a private message. Hi, I'm editing the video right now and I just wanted to pop in and say that this was originally for Patreon, so I had a totally different outro filmed. So I just wanted to add that if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'll be posting basics videos for dance and pole and exotic pole specifically every week, and I hope I see you again.